I didn't show it to you. He gave me I gave him one of these, and one of these. He said, do these. It was made here, any idea if this is? Okay. Translated like, so it's just translated like here. For the teaching. In the room. Now, how many did you make? Okay. We're expecting a total of 40 people. Well, if it depends on how many residents come, but no, that's including the residents. But Tenshuk isn't. It's not connected to the silk offering. It's just you just put it there. Is that correct? No. It kind of makes it hard to call.
Ngozame ki chu tu sum sang ge tam je ki ku sum tu ki ngo ni La mi shabla chose La mi guni doji go Zhi dawe cho mi shi Sam ye mi kya yun bende La mi gu la cha se de La mi su ni sang be yo Ga mi sing ge do dan de Mo di ri do zhang zi ba La maison la chasse de La mitone nam Ngondro de se mi do tombe Nanda sola ne pa la mi tu la cha se de Doje le ben zangye ba de zo sho la cha zo lo jo zo dim Xingge la nime yige gyab zu ji Ngondro yinge nam zhun ben dam be ju Shen zu zo Ngondro ju wo jun ben ge yin je ma lu shang bren ge zhuan zhu kwa zon dam Man zhen zhen lan je ran dam be da zhen di ma me zo be zhang zhu zim ge do de zhen zhang Simba la damba sumge lumbo lo zera dambe gewana Dune janju jonde ngo za je ba je mendon Lira lingji ninde gemban de zange Minde bo wa ye ndoge namda je Je bore shoe do guru radna manda gamye ya da ya mi Simje namge zomba da lo yin jen da jin da jen jun da mo de ba ye ju ki gon lo gon de zo
Ganta çocuğu dongi cidden de jelomar jova gans. Dendir zemve çocuğu çağırın bepen zemberde badam jendere şey nama. Dambalaya kadar da ne jenge rohundan ne gönandan roh jede geçse. Tam jege de zozur de jaraje. Sen jandan bardan da başta. Sen dondan bardan da çat. Durdar janda zibazana ganyameze janjala çazala banda. Sonya jadra zavala kenze. Soja dorjanda lamorande. Monzaran zanandan dorjin zamanda jinanda. Jirai jandarjala zovanda zonanga shindana javasam jandra sivazama janganja. Sarvanda zandan majengelo da zanda ulana jala tawanam padanya. Jengelo. Nasıl deneyim? Namkadan besim jantam ceketten de daki namjela namga yang tabur zobe sanji. Kovan Rinpoche chinde jantabra cha de chida dagi. Tare tambe chuki de samandi ni surjindo lebar. Sente nyamso lambra jo nyambatane tu Rinpoche keba. Ngondro ko ne sembra shu.
So please listen to the teachings tonight, having first given rise to the supreme motivation of bodhicitta, thinking that for all the benefit of all infinite sentient beings who pervade the reaches of space, I myself would do whatever it takes to attain fully enlightened Buddhahood, and for that purpose I will listen to the nectar of the profound Dharma and put it into practice correctly.
Tene da kashi sembra chave chuki rimbala tene da di ganzo tambo Ngondro kashi chike lungpegi.
For the topic of the teaching tonight, we'll begin by offering the oral transmissions for a few of the Ngondro practices.
Jangbe jisonde nyingmi tolo she chawa ngonde neme jodora jishila. Gada dengsa shina bangora shiwa shiga lama hidro shida shina daga shinda ora shinjira ma shina shima da sunja ora shina ora shiwa. Naga lama da shinda shida shina goba da shinsa ora shinjira ora shida shida ora 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 shida shida kunjira da shima ora shiwa ora shina ora shina shiwa shiwa shinjira ora shida shida kunjira ora shida. Tade shiwa sunjanga sunanda bego yanu da lama nyinga na nyinga sunja lama ora shida sunja sunja shiwa da yuna maga ma shiri ora maga yanu da wada maga shira na shiwa shiwa sunja da shida shiwa kuna shida na shiwa. Chongjira chinyanga la misa kata chinyanga oza chinyanga sunra chinyanga 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 varama dasa chinyanga 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 kurta mada lama rantana sabsan khanda nyandaka ngondra nganda sojira chinyanga 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 samsa chinyanga 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 namsa chukde shingda tinte chinyanga varanta nanda ten shu shi laka yisana yikavata chinyanga chinyanga nganda chinyanga chinyanga namanya namdira chinyanga 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 jindirunda chinyanga ten shu chinyanga 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 ngondra dhamma ne dewe dhala lena dhangpa sada samche lorda shivana dhamma samche dhangpa ki samche loya sa chava sa lama samche kuna dhanya shis dhangpa kukata dhanya nakura rante nama chava dhara chindra chindra karan sama sa nama naya ka nampa wakya sa kya dhashin sana dhashin she lama sarda lama kudong she dhapa lama la soha lama shi lama dhama lama la soha 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 dhanya nakura lama kukata she sa dhama kudong jiva dhara shi dhara dhara dhanya shava she sa Rikpan zime jinga da janya parcha din tenjo gonda jede parcha shi changi da yoga de nipa da ni da lo da de mo da na je shi da jati mo da tedra ta shi milyo ne kin da nya parga jin nya ban nyo da me da wa nyo da shi on da shi na nya chang me da le sa shi da nyo tare ko da da shi na jan da na de shi da ma da da nya ro jo nya da da na la ma da nya nya ba da ma na shu ra ji na ma da nya Jinjala Jagaran, the Janjana, the Yaman, the Soul, the Jinjala Jagaran, the Major, the Medajan, the Soul, the Jinjala, the Full One, the Jinjala, the Jinjala, the Sheba nam gyodan yila da janga da jirigwa judo, ado jirigwa judo, ado jirigwa judo, ado jirigwa judo. Nibala ngala dhamma thadunga da jidan josa dola thongwa josa da bala, dishto yunya diwa yodana da jiwa jiga da sanjiga nama da nasa sanjina wa jisima wa jisa uzu gongwa da yunya gongwa. Shansen jibi lama nirina sojiba da jira yada shimda kata jiga da jira jiga londa da aligala inda sama yada pawa da jira jira shansen yada da jina yudu ina jina tuji jima kunda jingor shesa da ba da daga janga da janga da ba jiga da lo de lingye jiga na jaja jima wada jiga da deva dam da da deva jada jiga jima da seva shesa sa jaja Jab yu na bang wasa da jiga ka jana da wada deva jina da wa jima jina da jana da jina sama da jima he mancha ka sunya sa da jima ka wasa sama da jina jina ba shesa da da janya jalo jana da jana da ma jina jina jaya na jina ka sama da jina da jaya na sama jina ranga sama jina da jaya jina ba sha ko Sumban ganyan tiru jonto sumban ranga jam la zawe lam berje samba lama junjung wa jam raja wa dong raja ye de wa nong jiro shin je so lam wa jam me janya ba dong ja dong to je dong ranga jam na ma de jino 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 Dosi jinju li nanga kardam jaga tira tam jana devi sama devi nanda jama tantra me agwa don jo trape me agwa jana agwa devi nanda kusan sa nanda jana tala shada tira mi tira mata shana tira shasa wata tira sama jeji zumbata chawa rishi patira tami naka tira kandari dana tira nasi da banya ramja ramja rawa tam peta sa shet jiwa tira rana tira rana tira sama nata kama shana nang tira tira shanta Tarlanga oso je jama so tira jama 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 There don't think you do the sound and ba ho she bought you Jatami Jacob another Levangam Jija, the song with the song was such a such a Jajin as a version of the Emma or another was another Nazana Goya Jingona Chin Wabian to make him the ones of Mojana Mojana She has a jump as we let the one in the Rangila Jana Jena Lodina Java Jama and the new one, Maruna comes out and Yamaz and Ying Jamajana Jones, Jalishima just a person and Ngondro Chaksan never tongue about the Chin of the Chin of the Yangajara, such a home person from Sidon Chair. Some I want to Japan and such a Yan. Lameju, Lazago, the Medusa, Rojago, Lizago, and the Mara, Rosa, songs I want to I am a good generation of the Gujan and the London Jetin Dawes and Lion of the Nama songs and Lamjan. Trashes or gentlemen, she was about some general Tunzan of the Salon gave food to Zilla and Laguna, sort of Langai here and no that they was looking on some jamba. Tim Nama moving on the number of those never much of a new log of the Senate. Some jigger jet, some jigger was a young Naja, Nija, so the middle sandwich. Not the much of the Jew, there was also years the original for German for the children of Joseph origin than Number go the Teman of the Shinana, the Sonia Sondrian, Composable the law, conclude the numbers of Sergeant Ramon, Jabra Lamanajan, Nyamla, Jesso, those on the one and Jesso and the Demi Navimo, Jing the winners, the numbers. Kuzan is not a revolution about one. Gaje Shinmin da be go nyu je dar sar sab zang kan ni la zo zo chue de chi ngon deng an zo ju lam chi nga ro ge be de ni jong mi sa ba de la yan de gum je bi de mi ngan di dang yo de ni che kong yo le ri sang a ju zan de jing ma chi ne da no mi ro de nam de ju wa de mi ba ju go ju wa nge wa de chi ne yi ge na da so ju go ring zin yo ji re za ran la sun ju za zo ma ju go de thong jen de wa ni zan de wa de zang wa de ban chi ma ji yan de ne yo to so so ne la wa ja de Dijan salon ya lancho da junda bodan de so ye na mi junda da ga zang bush ni sarwa da mangalam sarwa da mangalam sarwa da mangalam sarwa da mangalam jambe ni we da wa da zan da ni yo ya ro jira ni ni na wa zama da jana wa jana da jana jana wa jana da ya ra ni mo da mo Sohana da ben da sohana da jana zama zan da saran da 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 ni ro ni na yi ana ja ran da ja jana wa jana ran lo de jo jo za do mi ro nya da nya da ka ya shi da na jana o da ni na mo Sharman jiwa da jum da sang mon de ga de ba shu tang bo jam bo tang bo ja do no jana da na mo ni mo da ni ni ko da Then come on, John, then you buy one drummer, Tambucha, something in a butcher, condition on the Corona. Doesn't she more than much of the jobs of the general job and you was in a chain of more than 10 or more. So much as I'm a zombie was a general presence of some down by him, matter on the was you bought the song container and yet Hamilton and a job on the She does the vision me what I am, what I say, you get on better. Some of the drums, Besazadan şey yürüyüşünüzün teatro, o ki zaman da roje, şey dostum ran dünya başa çılım yüzün hemen özellikle de canım. Dişi partasında da düzgün yaşamışlar ama bezan durmadan şey gadon so kaman de la kosun to ki o şey bezan kuraka var şey o şey da la majra şey la madde de ran ya başa do bana demin go salam bojo şey len kaman şey la pön de başa de ba lüjin gamon Tane de la majra de majra de bana da no şey men do ra jo zamna ne do şey de se mona ni me me jo ra pen Ngondro ngande de wa de jangan ju da ki do je so kana san do Chewan jane jane chewan jane Machiwa sidiras do Chewan jane chewa sidiras do Duchu same ngondro ngade Tishung lo kodo shungwa shukso Tongmara lama la so de wa ti kena ge zamal de yo je kamden duji shiki minji ko ni Reknya da lama de jana jana banda jana me so mane de zamal de je China jida me da jana na jana na da ka de jana me da jana na jana jana me da ro tan da jana na Koro solo jana me jana jana kana de jana me da na pasha de da yo jana de jo ko de ma de ni ko na ma che Jamdo ni yeshi kada shi ko sang ma ro shi na mo kada mo de jo da jo ko mo jo sum jana to kan sino jana ta pe jana ko da 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 sum jana ko ro da na ba do jo ba ma da na do ko yo so ko da na no da sing ji jo na zo za ne pa ko sum jo na jo da ma de kan do na do ja na ko ka so na shi na ko na ko na ka jana nya ma da ma de su ja sa ya do wa ra jo ko so ko na Peki no no milam yuzo she milam yuzo se badre chenga no da ma se ma ma se da je mi den la ni ma je chama no sha je san ye te wo ni no sha ni ka se chi gor pha jana bo kin da mo de ge che yi yim kin da ge no shi ma bo no no je bo de ni ka se ho ni da ma je ne wo zin de de je mo da je ba mo ni za ho da sang ge da ba ra kyor te je mo da je ma ja ma za sha ja ma che de je shi cha ni be de na ka da shi mo da ro no ke Te jolo jogo jogo da mo thengna jiro dor je jiro go sho jan chan san na nyam chan zeba hi on na rige da mo jogo go no jo da ba thura ye kare ba ya ja na jo da da o se kada go se bra jom bezo de gra pham haran sa ba chin go ye so ha he mang da de na thogare pambar vedranga jetave guru je khamsunje pasha tena nyama sang langa chini je rawar me la bazawara pamhar na zawa china guru so ara da guna zamu to ya da nyama bazawara bazawara china guru china da yum guna zamu to ngam goma je khombo shido china nyama je khombo chugu yi ga na ga ma to guna nya guna zamu to guna nga je ra ra nyama china Roger was in Daniel Gento Jerom Samantha Drum, Jen, Conan River, Sangata, Dramata, Sama, Hedgin, and the Trevor and Trevor and the Number Trevor and Trevor and the Number Lamena Jen, and Ferrano, Ranano, the young angel. The Japan Vision of the Jerome, the Jaya to win, but the Jaya got the regime and the Yin. Seven of the German, but one of the China got the one of the Jesus, one of the Chilawaya, Guzam, Jazz, and the Rosas, in the Unajana, only was the one and Yusum. Damages on the Monguru Herinas Chapter was in the combination of the generation of the Shakins, Gosum, good to talk with the new to some Pajam, to some Pajam, and Jago, yet to Shackles, touch on the Conjure countries. So the Lamana to the Yakanamachino gentleman, Dajatan, you were showing in London. Gome Gula Georgian, some measures, some Meran, some Guinness and Ramadan. Chumetsus, Chutus, and Yaman, Yaman, Shaman, Shaman, Palama the Sumsan she's a washing along the she's a Takornala Jura Jovan Tawa Kyan Shago Gilles Gilman goes on to Jungo goes on to Jungo that's then tunzo kita karsa satir ngondro yewa che tene tana ngondro che tene cheme ngondro tunzo ki long pi
So now the lungs, the oral transmissions for the extensive Sater Ngondro, the concise Dujun Tersa Ngondro, and the Choma Ngondro are completed.
teaching kanto deke ngondro ta kanto deke ngondro kone
So then the main topic that we'll be teaching on this evening is about the Khandro Tuktik Ngondro.
Then dilata kanto deke khorang ngondro ngande ta tis dibachik ta kanto de khorang ngondro ngande jabjinam shik sung dibachik tang te hirshan te la jabjinam shik ti sashima kalora ti sashima yer tang shawa tende shik ni yore dan dinalor pecha dinalor ni yores.
So the recitations for the Khandro Tuktik Ngondro, there is one very brief one that was composed by Kyabji Dujun Rinpoche, and there's a slightly more extensive one that used Dujun Rinpoche's as the basis and is a little more extensive that was composed by Chatra Rinpoche.
맞아. 단단한 좀 망치하다. 먼저 배치시대 가서디 잘하는 것이기디 디스탑되어 여러 되는데 먼저 망치하게다 돼야디 남긴 돼야디 어디 제기여래.
And for the most part, people, when they're reciting this practice or accumulating this practice, they use Chatra Rinpoche's version. It's a little more convenient and practical the way it's arranged. So I'll also recite the oral transmission for Chatra Rinpoche's version of the Kondratuktik preliminaries.
Omsadi kange tingi si jinji nam chok zhezhel yi xi jin denzen doji jen shabe nian nian gong zhe ting zhi bel ten ga wadan de zhi gang zi zin ten lan na me bi chang zhi tuwa de wan na tong ma nian nian gong zhe rinpa rin zhi wo zhe de ngan de lun sum tu nun zhi kwa gong zhe tiong mong gi gong zhe lo do nam bi kebar ji gong zhe sak zhong a o tang bu ni go sum nal de fab chu lama gom la me bi dong shu zha pa de sum sang ke tam zhi jong o Lambar Rinpoche Keno, Dagi Chungi Lambar Zato Sol, She Sovata Lamarang, Taja Nyambar Dini, Tinchan Tamji Junko Zindo, Kalchi, the Yunu Dorong Participation, and Chinam Yuri, Guayato, Nivarangi, Singsa Jong Loda Namjung, and then Mikti Dengum, Zondo Jobe, Tajur, Dagi Tajur, Tenzan, the Chine, and Neka Tarelame, Kuzang Gopang, Jubde, Gopang, Jendencha. Kopang drupte jenden cha tati rinjin lun de yang chida du ge da da nam ching wa min dai da jen min da chung de ta korwin de kar ji gen dewi koka ma chi we dewi sil mi da wa nyang en dewi lam dun chu te je lun de den den jin yamon to som ne ge bang ge we le len ko som tam se da ba song shen gen jung ko lo ke to ni ba Kebaraji Ngondro Ngondro Langale, Kam Tambu Chamdone, the Garbasam JV, Saint Mani, the Sailama, Total of the Rich and Chology. Jayum Soja Yumna Yambra Kuning, and Sung Tamjetun, Sankera Jinti. Zazum Java, Devi, Javu Jung, Oja, Javu Kundendo, Sol, Sal Davla, Namonda, So, Drogan, Chanjin, Kunjosum. Ngoni dorje zimbe lama dorje zimbala miche ko kyapso je yiba sim ken kyaw yu pangbo so de ho kanyam jowa malu gun sibe chora de lama chjo cho de sem da ge yon so jebra je thara kyaw yu ku lo zo cho re bo sam je da jin ji di tam je sang ge tan cha do urdu cha kyu urdu cha ba je tam je tan kha chu de yu ki song kyaw yu lama odo jina rala de manyam ra sha go somba do sam gom de rang ge chur pende de hung le lama dorje sa tong do sha je chanye ba dorje zen je yim la kyu 다들 이제 이제 도가다 도르제 테르 홍이 홍들 이게 처음에 텔라 장선 두즈냐 바베디트 녀도 다들 베드로스 모노 발라 베드로스 다들 모드라다 소죠 아노르다 와서 드르드나 바와스토 냐바 아노르다 와서 냐바 스로스 스로 카마스 전 시리암 코로 홍하 호바가 원스로다 가다 베드로 베드로바 Mahazamaya Sadava Shechin da Tar Gobodin, Mission was in Gayan, so Lamang Gobokam, so the Jin Zama, and Jones, and Goes on the south and night, and the dealing in the Timothy of Shang Towers, so Dorjes and Magations, the mother, Rigibo, dealing in the Timothy, and they don't Jatava in a hint. He Sunshine original timber, some like Yambra Shago, Shiva Madame Social. Nada comes some nutrient, Nancy Chur, Dadu Longe, the Quinson Chivatin, Shenachin. Sarva Madala Bunza, Shem Bulta, Social Chibi, Madame Hongan, and around the Horsum Nibum Corsum, Mimi on the Shago, Napa Lamina, Namda here, Gulong, and so yeah. Dake me, Germany, the Danzan of the Zangar, Shasun the Jedon was the Jesu the homogeneous Guru Masi Dion Jishan Yirman Tosa Leto Chaksa Wadashi Jagan Lama Logos Bojan Chinazan Chinan Chitin Jesu Tomenas at Titusha Namgul Sola Jira Sagicho Question Yangam the Jus Yos Lame Gobancho Jayan de Mambu then good usage Trona Lama Kusun the Chakandra and Keke Lama Tanzan goes on Gino. Waji Gurjunguru, the Jada Oman Benzer Mahanguru, Soros, and the obsession there. Nan Lara Kondar saw the Waji Langers, Sam Shoulder, Lamaguin. Ozana Karmatin, Rangan, the Moon, Digitan, Oja Digitan, Oja, Chena, the Mugu, Mugu, Jeda, you saw the Lama Rantan Yerme, Lama Rantan Yerme Para, Lama Rantan Yerme, the Chin was selling under the share. Redanyo Randan and the Kwan in the Yamra Tun, the Hazel goes on the General Southern. Southern Dojang when they go and use the Bandana Roger and there's one young woman dance on top of Molam subject. Tunsan of the Nadotan, Southern Royal was in the Yavra Show, Kuno, social assistance was on yon. Sajan and Yutan, the one doing a jam, Sem Yigam and Yella, the Bada, Jangcha. So on the solo Sholok and Bumter, so the Nyamba Bumter Chi Mata, then but somebody which not sentence for them. And then Cabrajin Sing Majin Dambran Juro, Sislam Debi, Trochini, Samuel Cake and Dizinatari, Kohan Choga Kazando, Natsu Ujun towards Chess, Solan come to the Ngondro and depending on the Shech and Dini. There's young Domisa and the Juson General than Dusagi Chixu. Payment Jasa Doshin Zimba to me bounce your chatter or Sangi Doja Patalaga, Unajar and Dig and Jetse. Kuzan Pedro in Yokoponchola, which is Salvada Kalayanam Bhavantu. Oh, that's a did that. Come to take Ngondro long day.
So that was the oral transmission for the Kandratutik Ngondro.
Ah, that's then the long day that long junta, so long junta. She done did on a tea long junta the Kalingbong Lama Chimekundin Shivi.
And in general, the lineage for these transmissions and instructions I received from the Lama in Kalimpong, Lama Chime.
That's and then the Tilung Dao Shuche, then the Bum the Saria Martin, Ngondro, so Ngondro Tijab Secret. Then I come to take go to the Lange, Tanyamle, Chitty.
And I practiced a little bit of this. I didn't do the full set of 100,000 accumulations for everything, but I did 10,000 for each.
That's then Chidi Dires, Chidi Zo and the Jabjim Kona Rangi, Kona Rangi, Zisha Ngondro Shiro, Otiki Tigre.
The instruction text for this is mostly refers to Kyabje Juju Rinpoche's own short Ngondro practice for this that he wrote.
That's then Dilata Dambo Garsore Tiki Senden La Sablam Kanto to take Ngondro Miti Sintisutaba Shosos.
And so the title for this instructional commentary on the Kandratutik Ngondro is the instructions on the visualizations of the foundational practice of the profound path of the Dakini heart essence.
That's Tandina to Tigre the Java Mewachene. So Mikpa Kareche in Batonzo, Zorchene, Sung Sare.
So this text doesn't go through every single word and describe its meaning, but generally emphasizes how to do the visualizations and stages of contemplation. So the text begins with Namo Guru Gyana Dakiniye, or homage to the Guru, wisdom Dakini. And so this is the offering of homage to begin the text.
Telandir Salam Kandutoteki, Najasamun Yamsulembe, Ngondro Rimbanis, Tamondang, Kabarji Ngondro.
This guide to the foundational practices of the profound yoga, of the profound path of the Dakini heart essence, has two sections, the common foundations and the extraordinary foundations.
The
common foundations have four parts. The teachings on the difficulty of finding a free and fully endowed human birth. That's the first section of that. The master Shantideva taught, finding a fortunate human rebirth is extremely difficult. If a person succeeds but doesn't make use of it, how can such excellent fortune happen in the future? And then it says, therefore contemplate as follows. So according to what the great master Shantideva taught in this verse, then one engages in the following contemplation on its meaning. If I were born in any of the three lower states of existence, constantly suffering, I would not have physical freedom. So the three lower states of existence, or lower realms of hell, the starving spirits and animals, if I were to be born in any one of those, I would only have constant suffering, nothing else, and therefore I wouldn't have any kind of ease or freedom with which to practice Dharma.
That's then Kupar Jenani Tiktungi that trip in New Mepe Nami comes. Tangarans Casey me litin Tobaina, me litin Tobaina, me Kupa Chito Kesona, then it's Tiktungi that trip in New Mepe Nami comes.
If I were born as a mute person, not able to comprehend words and their meanings, I would not have the freedom of verbal expression. So even if I were to be born as a human being and have the support of a human being's body, nevertheless, if I were to be born mute and unable to understand words and understand what words mean, then I would not have freedom in terms of speech.
Yes. That dinahi, that latsering botang. Takoptang Sangyeki Tongbi Mimbi Kalwa Lokta Chena Jirkenani Yimikom.
If I were born with any of the following four conditions, as a long-living God, in a borderland, in a dark age without Buddhas, or as a person with false views, I would not have freedom of the mind.
mi compale ta tende yepanane ta tetra yepale da te yepu kando yang ma jebe talwa ye topdo nyamda sam.
Then contemplate like this. In contrast to this, I was not born under any of these 8 conditions, and moreover, I have truly attained the 8 freedoms.
Yes. Then talwa te kebra ki chu jara chu yang chudang yang dente ngaranzo talwa ki toba sama imbar te tengdo den da kebra ki chu jara chu pute ngaranzo la changde yore sunser.
Then contemplate the specific attributes of the 10 endowments of these 8 freedoms. So not only have we attained these 8 freedoms or 8 states of ease, but on top of that there's 10 obtainments or 10 endowments that are specific and unique qualities that we have.
Lasata dani mi nang ne ke sungrata jara chu na tangbo de mi kines ke sunatere.
The 5 individual endowments are first having a human birth, so we've actually been born as a human being.
Mi kene na leo ne kyang tene ta ngasora tang yul usuke sunre. Mi kene ki nang de mi kasa mi ne suke wa tele te na ne kyang kebar to phakwa samare kebar to phakwa tene yul usuke sunre.
And as a translator is not literally, here it says living in a country where the Buddhist doctrine is established. Literally, this is in a central land, but the meaning is what's translated here. So not only have we been born in the realm of human beings, but what makes it more exalted and more special is having been born in a place where the Buddhist teachings are present, where we can connect with the Dharma.
Na yulwi sayada chitang sajalaya kogire dine choy kangdo tarsalaya kogire ta dine ta di chitang ta nichala kochongre.
And the phrase central land sometimes can refer to an actual place, and sometimes it refers to a place where the Dharma has spread, and it's okay to understand it in either one of these ways or both. But the most important one, the primary one, is talking about a place where the Dharma has spread. So even if we were born in a place where the Dharma is established and spread, if our sense faculties were not complete or were impaired in some way, then we wouldn't have the full ability to use them, but that's not the case, so we possess all 5 senses intact. And even if we were born in a way where all our senses were intact, if we didn't have any mental inclination, any mental aspiration towards virtue, then again that wouldn't be of any benefit, but that's not the case. There we have an inclination and an aspiration to practice virtue. And not just the aspiration for virtue in a more general and ordinary sense, but on top of that, and even more exalted, to have faith in the teachings of the Buddha, in the Dharma. So that's much more beneficial, and that's we have that. And the fifth is to then not engaging in activities which are contrary to Dharma. So these are the five that depend on oneself, or the five individual endowments.
Tene, tene ma, tene garsavre. Shandala tene, tsangkukuyivi kechare. Sangye jikden to chun, tene ma ngapudi, shenjen, jen shenla tenpa sagurwa, titawre.
Then what follows are the endowments that depend on others or depend on other circumstances. So it says the five circumstantial endowments are: first, living in a universe where a Buddha has appeared.
Tangbudi, sangyen jikden to chunpa tere.
So that's the first one, that the Buddha has come and appeared in this world.
Tene sangyen jikden to chunpa yenayang kabre, tene chitata che masungpa ta yongpa ta yenayang kabre che kalorta. Ta ngazmasana che sunyang goma sukpa tene tindegi tu tsu yongro tindi kaso ane tegi che yang sungpa sire.
And even if the Buddha has appeared in the world, it's never really the case that the Buddhas don't teach the Dharma at all, but there are some circumstances and some times where they have yet to teach, and so the Dharma hasn't come forth, and that's not our case. The Buddha has taught the Dharma fully.
That's tene tegi che sungwa tsamya mayin barar, tene che sungwa tegi tenpa manu bar tata yang yu neda pa yunde kaso, te tenpa manu bar neba sire.
And so the Buddha has taught the Dharma, and not just taught, but it continues to the present time. So it says the Buddhist doctrine has not perished and remains.
Tenpa manu bar neba sire ta, tenpa manu bar neba tsamya mayin bar, te jisu shubi kanza kyang yu sungwa ta, te yang tanda yu derwa, tene tindi kaso te jisu shubi kanza kyang yu sire.
And it's not just that it persists and remains up to the present time without decline, but there are also those who actively follow the Buddha's teachings.
Ani te kyang nyingji shen jisu zinpe shenla tepa nga te sungrata kansa yopa inna ya kansa te tenla shuk tsamma yinbar tene kansa te kyang ngarang zola chö ten tuku yopa ta ngarang zola ta lama gyu shingi tu dhawra ani konzo tenla shukpa tsamma yinbar tenpa teki nesu ti shen shenla ten tupa nyingze yoko ne shen jisu zin tuku yopa tenda yang tatanda yude barwa tende koso tansu ta shenla tuyana tsangwa nga re tende koso ta shenjor nga ser.
And it's not just that there are followers of the Buddha's teachings, but that there are followers of the Buddha's teachings who out of compassion can care for others. So not only have they themselves entered the Dharma, but out of compassion and care for others, they can teach and reveal the meaning of Dharma to others. So it says that's what we refer to as a virtuous spiritual guide. So those exist, and so it says where there are compassionate spiritual guides. So these are the five circumstantial endowments that depend on conditions outside of ourselves. So it's necessary to think that I have attained the 8 freedoms, and on top of that, the 10 endowments. And think that those are all complete within oneself. Then furthermore, meditate on the great difficulty of finding the support which is complete with the 8 freedoms and 10 endowments. So those 8 freedoms and 10 endowments that were just explained, having understood what they are, then one contemplates how difficult it is to find them.
단예발가비 출조되는 규당 배당 장숨주거네 숨기 열에.
In the primary way of understanding how difficult, the way in which it's so difficult to attain the precious human rebirth is through three means, according to its cause, according to examples, and according to numbers.
다 대규 다당부 규송을 다셔저제 기 밀레토비 규이 소데 가리고 그래서는 규 밀리 펜톱지 수침송와 직되는 건버나의 칠 규이고네 냐바르까.
So first is the cause, and it's going to answer the question of what is the primary cause for attaining a precious human rebirth. So from a causal viewpoint, this is difficult to find because the propelling causal force for such a human birth is the practice of ethics, which is rare in this universe.
송발을 때네 또그거래 된데 가서 되는 거랑 좋다 서로 거랑 좋다 저지는 사람들은 ngomong 다 겨 ngomong 저라 이제 주츠름 푸슨 소바시 송발을 때네 아니 다당하는 소리다 밀린디 토바 도스래.
And because attaining a precious human rebirth relies on having kept proper morality, proper ethics in a really excellent way, then because we have now obtained that precious human rebirth in previous lifetimes, then we must have kept morality in a very good way.
janzo chenpo lungi yingbi nyashingi poga chigwe pogar lo jane nying nying le re chebi riba jin jimba tsubatan drawe peyi ku ne jan nyabar ka sonshu.
The level of difficulty can be illustrated by the example of a turtle rising to the surface of a vast ocean once every 100 years in succeeding in putting its head through a yoke which is constantly adrift on the ocean. So this is how to understand the difficulty of attaining it through an example. Then considering it through numbers, also consider this numerical example. Given all the countless animals living in the earth, the mountains, and the rivers during the summertime, the possibility of a human birth is negligible. So given these considerations, analyze and contemplate the difficulty of finding a human birth. So based on understanding the numbers, one analyzes how difficult it is to find.
Then nyeba penyon chisu yang samde stal dajer rangla ditawa konde suwana shingi dalwa yedan jorwa chu changde peki nyeba kawati nyeba ti penyon chisu la yang de rangsu tis sam songre.
Also contemplate the enormous benefits and qualities of finding a human birth. So having understood what the 8 eases and 10 obtainments are, then we also need to contemplate how beneficial and positive it is to have found that support of a precious human rebirth.
다 간제스레스나 Jarwa kunjang ten dile ten sang je shin jawar gyurwi chir ulbu yijingi noru rinpoche nyepa tar dagi tajir tang dembe milu rinpoche toba di karjere che di da di dome tu marliwa tambi chula tse chikto labde tajir tonglo to masawara chao nyamdo trakto sambar chao.
Because all Buddhas will attain enlightenment by relying on the support of the human rebirth, finding a precious human rebirth endowed with spiritual freedoms and advantages is like a poverty-stricken person finding a wish-fulfilling jewel. What great fortune! Firmly contemplate, thinking, rather than thoughtlessly wasting this, I will diligently and one-pointedly train in the noble Dharma, so that I do not return from the freedoms and advantages of my human birth empty-handed. So this is like what the great Bodhisattva Shantideva said of having obtained this precious human rebirth is like a priceless jewel. And so he says this because even though our body is made of flesh and blood and is in that sense impure, because having obtained a precious human rebirth, we can practice and accomplish the Dharma. Based on that, we then will transform into Buddha and become fully enlightened as a Buddha. Therefore, it's something extremely meaningful and important. So it says, rather than thoughtlessly wasting this, I will diligently and one-pointedly train in the Then second is teaching on life's impermanence. The discourse, the vast display, or Lalita Vistara says, the three planes of existence are impermanent like autumn clouds. The births and deaths of beings are like watching a dance. The human lifespan is like a flash of lightning in the sky. Like a cascading waterfall down a steep mountain, it rushes by.
Yes. Di topjang yöringbul minete sananzala nyeparkawa di tende toba yinna ta di yöringbu degire de medegite tenten kasanganzala ta kay yomarwa tende kasu yöringbul minete.
Likewise, although you have obtained that which is difficult to find and most meaningful once found, this precious human birth will not last very long. So we have found something that's so hard to find, but there's no certainty. There's no. It's not definite whether it will last a long time or not.
유즈본 미네데 치암 미치냠베 타좀메바라 게펜체 탐제 칭에와진 인베 인라 스타 탐제 희기르담 희기 말했삼베게다 태좀자메 메방아주 탐제다 희게바라제 송스.
So it says it will not last very long, and there is no doubt about whether you will die or not. All that is born is certain to die. There's no even way to doubt whether am I going to die or am I not going to die. It's 100% certain that whatever is born will die.
다 칭에바 있나양 단 딜라양 그래서다 남치텐텐 여마라 티엔데 거서 대양 겐신 발미 거림 망에 브라치데 송스.
And although it's the case that it's certain that everyone will die, there's no fixed time for death. It happens to the old, the young, and the middle-aged with no order.
근데 나라다 시시세야데 나라도 그러나 간저 로충중의 희그 말에 삼삼된데 단다 희그 말에 삼삼된데 그러다 삼바인나야 텔랭가바자는 메레스로.
So some young people will think, oh, I'm young, I won't die yet. But there's no certainty about that at all. So that's a wrong way of thinking.
치데스 망해버려 치데스 룽는 그 말에 따라 가진 마와 당 소라 그래서 심벌대야라 되는배나 룽숨난 그 말만 나신 빼마세 빠파체 가진 망보.
Like a candle flame in the wind, life is vulnerable to numerous adverse conditions. So just staying alive is can be there's many obstacles or many adverse conditions to simply remaining alive.
바나라서다 마다 모케다 되는 중초로 서버된데 겐 빼마세 망보 말아서다 요여버려.
So there are really many circumstances that can affect this. There can be wars or famines or disturbances in the elements and so forth. And also diseases, many different kinds of various diseases.
And
as well, sometimes there's many different what would ordinarily be supportive conditions that can transform into adverse ones. For example, food which is ordinarily helpful can transform into, can be, affect one as something like poison. And medicine as well can kind of reverse and be something negative. So there are many different circumstances like that. And like a water bubble, it is unstable. That's the nature of our life. It is very unstable. So our body, our form, or our precious human rebirth, based on very small, very subtle circumstances, they can lead to our demise.
Tende kas chik kala kora nganzo ki tendi pema sepe kala kora le lao chene kien chung chung chike yang nganzo hiya dende yungirwa.
It's very easy based on some circumstances to pass away.
Buwatar, miten bada, hingzir newe chadar namchi chame bichiro sonra.
And like a bird perched in a treetop, the time of death is uncertain.
Hingzir newe chayenne ko kasa namyang pur chocharo, tena shinga ranzo ke lyuden deyang, tene pema sevada, hi chocharo renga ranzo.
So a bird perched in the top of the tree is always ready to fly away at any moment. And so likewise, our body is kind of ready to die. It's possible for it to die at any time. So that's why death is uncertain. And then furthermore, when the headwaters of a pond run out and the bottom bursts open, the length of life cannot be prolonged, only shortened, and thus swiftly vanishes.
Secondary, karmarere, choosere, nimarere, dawarere, nayanta, mama, sedrayamato, kolati, nubegya, zane mere, tindikosata, Tana second redrosona and the Chiwada tak, Jenny Jogu, Tindagosa, number mentioned Tibatan Cheve, Yurtumita.
So every second and minute and hour, day, month, so forth of our life is only getting closer to death. It's never, there's never increasing of life, so it's quickly vanishing. Nakta me korvi usu uki tiutak dile tarwa kanaya me. Like a monkey in the middle of a deep forest, surrounded by fire, there is no way to escape. So likewise, if one looks for a way to escape from death, there's no way to do so whatsoever. Yorne, Sana Tressa Meodo, or Yen Kawalaya, Yen Yabla Sana Tressa Meko. Do you run like a dinner for Shinjig and Damla Rang, Dramesi, Yen the Yabla Tressa Sana Mekodo, or that dinner Shinje? It talks about in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara that it's as if we're like walking with every step toward the city of the Lord of Death, and behind us and the left and right are his helpers, and so that there's no way for us to escape whatsoever. So we only have that one direction that we can go to, going closer and closer towards death. Dorna tonup rayang chimichi chicha sunatangaranzo tarengonda samya. In short, who knows if death will come tonight or not? So it may happen that one passes away this very night. It's uncertain. Therefore, give up all your meaningless, distracting activities. What remains of your life is a mere ray of sun peeking in and out of the clouds. Therefore, firmly resolve that you would rather die than not engage from the depths of your heart in authentic Dharma practice as a way of laying up provisions for your future lives. Then third, teaching on karma, cause and effect. In the discourse, Advice to the King, it says, Great King, when the time comes, wealth, relatives, friends, and family cannot accompany you. Wherever beings come from and wherever they go, karma follows them like a shadow. While death is indeed definite, you may think, I'm going to die anyway, so I don't need Dharma. Although you may have the view that when you die you will become nothing, you will not become nothing. So if one thinks that at the time of death it just is extinguished like a candle being extinguished, that would be one thing, but that's not the case. So it doesn't become some kind of vacuous nothingness. Consider this example. If you plant a sweet seed, the fruit will be sweet. Just as different fruits ripen from different seeds, engaging in the 10 negative actions brings you to places such as the 3 lower realms and so forth, where you experience the karmic sufferings of such wrongdoings. Through engaging in the 10 positive actions, you temporarily obtain the happiness of the higher realms and so forth. In order to reach ultimate liberation, avoid even the most subtle aspects of the 10 non-virtues, like poison, and rely on virtuous actions, which are like taking restorative medicine at the time of death. When engaging in any kind of activity, walking, resting, sitting, and so forth, transform these actions, which are not necessarily virtuous, negative, or neutral, into virtuous karma by thinking with resolute intent. At this time, when I have obtained the freedoms and advantages, I must not be careless with my actions. So here this is teaching the way in which all our happiness and suffering follows after our positive and negative karma.
tinashingi tene gewa chu chena ani mige wala sopa chena ni dungal nyongju yinpa ta gewa chu chena tene dewa nyongju yoba nekapsu dewa nyongju yoba.
So if a sweet seed is planted, the result of that, the fruit of that will be sweet. And likewise, if a sour seed is planted, it's going to have a sour result, a sour fruit. So if we plant non-virtuous seeds, negative seeds, then we experience the result of that suffering. And if we plant virtuous seeds, temporarily, we experience the result of happiness.
Tene gewa chu degi Tulku Thadral Rinpoche tek chebe chirsada Tulku tene ngarangzo Thadral dan tamje chebe kobang thora chebe ki ya tek chegire songse.
Ultimately, in order to reach liberation, so in order to reach fully enlightened Buddhahood, omniscience, or liberation, then we rely on the path of the 10 non-virtues to lift us up to that.
Ta teyinde kaso ani migewa digbile tamje dojindo pang ani giwile tamje mejindo tenne tene ta tengu gres rol.
And then, so then the way we have to engage with this is to avoid non-virtuous and negative activities or karma as if they were poison, and rely on positive or virtuous activities as if they were medicine.
Tene rocha nyaldu so gidi kangdo yang lungde mate bona gewala giwile la gyurte hesonre.
And it says, when engaged in any kind of activity, walking, resting, sitting, and so forth, transform these actions, which are not necessarily virtuous, negative, and neutral, into virtuous karma.
Tangaranzo ten roya dan nyeya dan kalasaya dan tunglo kanyala sopa tunso chitang lungmaten re hesong tena mangboshi ro lungmaten gile.
So all of these activities such as walking and sitting and putting on clothes and so forth, in general are neutral. They're not virtuous or negative.
Tanto changma lungmaten gi changma yang azo gewala gyurwi giwile la gyurgore songre.
And there are many, many neutral sorts of things like this. So we need to transform all of them into something positive and virtuous.
Penangaranzo lamlandro nekamna yang tene da tarwatan tamchi chimbi kopang tendu nyen drogi samba yanani parodishimba drogi lamlan drogi samba.
So for example, if one is walking along a path or a road, one thinks, I'm traveling towards the state of omniscient Buddhahood, or I'm going along the path of the 6 paramitas.
Yanani changchuk nyingbu ki chola drogi samba, changchuk xingwang zhonggu chola drogi samba, changchuk choki chola, changchuk ani tinashi changchuk xingzhong ki ramla drogi samba, ta sang yegu kruwa nga changchuk xingzhong la. Or one
can think that I'm going along the path of the branches of enlightenment, or I'm going to the pure land of enlightenment.
I'm dinashi nyala yang tenangaran sadachi the Ngondro jewa to zanalola the nyajikap ki tadeyan dinashi rwa wasal sem zone nyalsu sungda otende kone gewala gyurya.
And for going to sleep, it's taught in the extensive Ngondro how to do so by recognizing clear light, which is then a way of transforming sleep into virtue.
Na wendu xie sere, dangwa se na sanyi shoge ngawu na ya lang na che che go samba di na wendu xie re. Na wendu xie sen tanda dana tanga zu junjuk tang kari kato zu na na gesu kari kato zu na na wasai kecha xingi mara de na wendu xie song yo re. Iya chik bari ta karsa sopu le karsa wata sopu di be yana de karsa ta dreme parwa marme parwa na xin 여기 나라 혀 삼네 이바체 다윈도 히다 나윈도 시게 냐로 차고 소 어디나신 삼고 그랬어.
So there's teaching about the perception for when one arises, when one wakes up in the morning and when one goes to sleep. So for arising, the perception, the attitude to cultivate is, I'm going to practice pure holy dharma. And for going to sleep, it doesn't talk about recognizing clear light or per se in places like the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, but the one visualizes and thinks that there's like a brilliant light, like a lamp or something, radiating within one's body, and one goes to sleep within that perception. And it's also good to think that just as the Buddha attained the state of full enlightenment beyond all suffering, I too will attain that unsurpassable state, or I will rest in the Dharma Dhatu. Those are also good ways to think. And so the phrase of like attaining enlightenment or there was parinirvana actually in Tibetan. So or what's translated into Sanskrit from parinirvana just doesn't know, because otherwise the next part won't make sense. So when we go to sleep like that, we can think that I want to attain that same state of wisdom of the Buddha's parinirvana, and we can even take on the aspect of how the Buddha passed into parinirvana, like sleeping on the right side with the hand under the head as a reminder. And for eating, first we offer our food to the triple gems, and then we consume it ourselves. And then as we're eating, we can also think that we're being generous by giving it to all the many beings within our body. And if one is able to think in a more expansive way, then food we can turn into the wheel of Sok, into Ganachakra. So there's teachings within the text of the secret mantra Vajrayana of how to offer food as Sok, how to transform it into a Sok.
나신 차기요.
And there are many different texts of some longer, some shorter, such as Sokang Dichin or Yinki Bendar and other short ones as well, that if we recite that before we eat and then eat, it becomes like a tsok.
당지나 어느 요가기 로기 되네. 가서 남지 망부 배제 망부 어디 책이지. 어느 요가기 로기 되네. 지요래. 달리 분감 괜찮니 세 찍도 해야지. 어디 가서 배제 망부 책이지.
And then in the Anu Yoga tradition or system, there's a prayer that starts with the aggregates and elements of this body, and then they use that to offer tsok.
달리 분감 괜찮니 대존 사리 긴거대 세야시어라. 가도 디가산 찍라 통성. 틸 계신 말어. 틸 계신 게 나라 말어.
The next line is like this body of mind that is complete with aggregates and elements. Or no, this body of mind with aggregates and elements is complete as the three seats of the deity, wisdom deity, and the missing line. But this is also used frequently.
풀위근데 망원도 땅에 거야 다 거야 살바도 세게래. 아니 괜찮아야 되나 시래. 그래서 괜찮다 상마 당보 건조를 푸 되는랑.
And also any kind of clothing before wearing it oneself first offer to the Buddhas, and likewise any kind of ornaments or jewelry or anything of that sort first offer and then wear oneself.
last tanzo ko lang na da rinzin jingmil teta dog na ma yor te rinzin jingmil ling ba ki sung na lo la choyu lam ger se ya sher tanzo la ta tu na ya ko yor es choyu lam ger lam de ger wa.
So generally this is taught in the sutras, but there's also a text by Jigme Lingpa about how to carry offering and one's conduct onto the path. That's good to look at.
Las ta tendi ke tende chene ran so ke ta lungma tengi cholam pe mangbo yedi de ko so to sangma la ya gewele la yor so she.
So by doing these sorts of things, all one's ordinary neutral activities can be transformed into virtue. One minute.
Onlas na tende samne tende tejir tobe lundi karsa lundi chawa chewa nam tangarang zo ge leka chese changma thola to ma song wa shi chao nyam to go ne chak to gom chak to samo song she.
So at this time, when I have attained the freedoms and advantages, I must not be careless with my actions, so as I don't want to waste everything that I'm doing.
Yes. Donzo ta chanar Rinpoche ki di sung na tangi teja nyaka tang tseme taba tang ta donzo lodo namba je ki nangden do ha anu donzo ta nyamdo ananzo dire karso re samtang ya so mara ta gom jab so samtang sa dire.
So when reciting the verses by Chatra Rinpoche in the Ngondro itself, for the four thoughts that turn the mind, this is what one should contemplate on and meditate on.
That's tene ta jiba koru nyemi re ina ta jiba koru nyemi da yang ti sa mangbu du ro ani ngam se pe mang cha sa re na tarin dana la betite dana la sha cho chi.
The next section is the teachings on the defects of samsara, but this is quite extensive. It's fairly long, so we'll leave off the instructions for there right now.
That's an tare tele chu gi za da yang demba da simje ga den do ngo da mo lam ga tun de len chi to na wa shu.
So then let's dedicate altogether whatever merit has arisen from listening to the teachings to the benefit of the beings and the teachings.
So nam de tam chi zikwa ni tum ne nge be dana ba kya ga na chi ba long tro ba yi se be so le tro wa da wa shu pe me ring lu ngen ju zo kwa chi nge de nying be shin da den jom ne gang ge sa te tem ba se men do she dan zhe ben zen ju chi kan lop che zum ring lu chen zam le sa sum ja do ji cho sum na wa da men de te sum ge le shu chang chu sim cho rim chi ma che pa nam ke wa nya ma kon do pe wa shu. That's